Good afternoon viewers and welcome to the CEC live lecture for the Natural and Applied Sciences. In this hour we are going to interest you. If you have interest in web designing, then this lecture is very important for you, because we have here with us Dr. Pavitra Bhardwaj from the Department of Computer Science at Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi, talking about JavaScript. So we welcome Dr. Pavitra Bhardwaj to our studio. Welcome, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Today we will be talking about JavaScript, that is an integral part of web designing. As in the previous lecture we had introduced the importance of JavaScript and how scripting is very beneficial for client-side scripting, and also what is the role which JavaScript can play in designing and launching of dynamic web pages. So today we will be continuing on the same line, and we will I will introduce a quick recap of where JavaScript fits in when you are designing the dynamic web pages. So we can see here in this diagram that internet basically works on the client server model, and the clients are the web browsers, or it could be a mobile client like a mobile phone or a laptop or a computer, anything, and then we have the server where the websites are hosted. So the clients, they send requests to the server for a particular web page through the internet, and the server processes that request and sends the response back accordingly to the clients. Now the client side scripting or the client side designing is done using different tools, like this could be HTML, and then we use some client side scripting languages like the VB script, which is now a little redundant, and more or less mostly we use JavaScript. And then we have the server side, where on the server we are using other types of scripting languages, like PHP is very popular, or ASP, or this kind of technologies are being used to design and to launch scripts at the server side. So basically most of the processing and data storage, it happens at the server's end only, and the client's end basically is more of the design element, what visual experience the user is going to get when he or she visits your web page, and also some basic kind of processing and data validation and event handling can be done using the JavaScript as a tool for your web page at the client's end. So we were discussing about JavaScript with the perspective of the client's end, and as we had discussed in our earlier lectures in the series on web designing, like the same way JavaScript is used as HTML, so we design it in a notepad and then you can view it in the browser where you see the normal websites. So this is how JavaScript works about. Now JavaScript basically is a dynamic language that executes within the browser, and the code is embedded in an HTML page, and the page actually uses a JavaScript tag. So the tag that we use to embed JavaScript into our HTML code is the script tag. Now JavaScript code can be embedded in three ways in a file, in an HTML file. First is by an external file, where we had done in cascading style sheets also we had done this, where you create a separate file and then you link it to your HTML page using the link tag. Then we can, the most popular and the easiest way to do or to embed JavaScript code in your HTML is through the header of the page. So you insert your script element in the header of your HTML page, or you can do that in the body of the page. So there are three ways in which we do it, but the more popular ways and the more popular approaches of embedding a JavaScript in an HTML page is using the JavaScript in the head or using it within the body of your HTML page. So we have this JavaScript code here. This is a simple code which I am showing you, where you put a script tag and you put a closing script tag, and in between these two tags we will put the JavaScript code. Whatever JavaScript code you have to put in your page, it must be between the two script tag, that is the opening script and the closing script tag. Only when the browser sees the script tag does it recognize that the code which follows is going to be executed as a JavaScript tag, otherwise it will not be executed. Now the script tag that we are shown here, it has actually two important attributes. The first attribute is the language attribute. Now this attribute specifies what scripting language you are going to use. So its value, generally if you are using a JavaScript, it will be JavaScript. If you are using any other type of scripting language, like you are using a VB script or something else, then you will put that. But most popular scripting language that is commonly used nowadays is JavaScript, so you will put JavaScript. Another important point here to note is that language attribute is not used much these days, and it has become more or less redundant. The important attribute which is specified with the script tag is the type attribute basically. So this type attribute basically it recommends, it indicates the scripting language that we are going to use, and generally you will see that when you say type, then you specify it as text or JavaScript. So this is the important tag that you will see while you are going through any scripting language or any kind of scripting tag. So you will see script type is equal to text oblique JavaScript. Again, I would like to remind you that in CSS also we have used a similar kind of structure where we specify the style sheet type element this way. So this is a simple first JavaScript program that you can see here. Now here I have used the script as part of the body of my HTML page. So you can see here I am writing script in the HTML body, and I am writing script language is equal to JavaScript, type is equal to text oblique JavaScript, and then what follows are the HTML comments. We are already familiar with the HTML comments. So basically this structure is put inside the HTML comments so that the browser does not parse it like an HTML tag, but it considers it as a scripting tag. Therefore, any element that is put in a HTML page which is not proper HTML tags is always put in the comments so that the browser will parse it in a different kind of way. So you can see here the first the simplest scripting command that is used here is document.write. In the previous lecture we had discussed about the different objects which are there in a JavaScript program, in a JavaScript element, that is the document object model. So document is the object and write is the method of the document object, and hello world are the arguments which have been supplied to the write method. So basically this particular command document.write and hello world written in brackets is going to print the characters hello world on the browser screen as it is. So this is a simple command which we see. Now this is another example which I am going to show you here, that how how JavaScript has been used within the head and how it has been used within the body, and what difference does it show on the browser screen. So basically you can see here the same tag, that is script type is equal to text JavaScript document.write. I have written one simple line here in the head portion, and a similar line has been written in the body portion of the HTML page. Now when you run this, you can see the output has been shown here. So basically it is the same, the output or the result of the script remains the same. So the point here is that it doesn't make any difference whether you incorporate your script into the HTML head or you incorporate into the body section of your HTML page. It is more or less the same. The only thing important to remember is that all your JavaScript commands have to be enclosed in the script type, and within the same page you can use multiple script elements also. This is clearly seen in this page. Now we are going to talk about the control structures. So in the previous lecture we had discussed little about the variables and how a program flow happens. Now this control structure basically are those statements which control or which manipulate the flow of the program control. That is, whenever you have to change the regular flow or the default flow of the program control, then you require certain specific statements which will alter that. So therefore these commands or these statements are known as the control statements or control elements. So here we are going to talk about a few basic control structures which are used in JavaScript. So the first is the if statement, then we will be using the while loop, and also a different variant of the while loop, like is the do while loop, and we will be talking about the for loop. So basically each of these control structures, it manipulates a block of JavaScript expressions, and it begins with an opening curly bracket and it ends with a closing curly bracket. So whenever you are specifying any block of statements which you want to execute, if you are giving a control structure, you will always put it within an opening curly braces and closing. So basically you are trying to create a block of statements if a particular condition is met, or another block of statements if the condition is not met. So we will be looking at the first of these statements, that is the if statement. Now those who are familiar with the programming are they are very well aware of how an if condition works. For those who have no background in programming, it may be suggested that they refer to a simple basic programming book, so that the logic element of the program can be made clear, because this lecture is going to focus more on the semantics part of the JavaScript and not on the logic part of how programming is done. So basically we are going to talk about the if statement. Now in the if statement, the fundamental control statement is the if statement in JavaScript, and basically it makes the decisions and execute statements conditionally. So whenever there is a condition, where you have a condition in your program, the expression that you will use is the if statement. Now if statement, the syntax has been specified here. So you give the if, then you specify the expression or the condition, and then in the curly braces you specify the statements which will be executed if the expression is true. This is the simplest form of the if statement, where you only give the statements, or you only specify what is to be done when the condition is met. Like for example, you can see here a simple program has been written. We write if x is equal to 10, then you will put the value of x into as you will save the value as y, and maybe down you are saving the value or you are printing the value. So the if statement allows JavaScript programmers to make a decision. So you use an if statement whenever you have a fork in your program, that is you have a condition in your program. For example, if you have to judge whether a number is even or odd, so in that case you need to divide the number and you need to compare whether the remainder is 0 or not. So in that case you can use this kind of a statement, that if remainder is equal to 0, the number is even, otherwise the number is odd. So that's a simple kind of condition which you use. Now if you have a composite condition, where you have something to do if the condition is met and something else to do if the condition is not met, that is there is a true and false, for both you have some course of action to be taken. In that case the statement that you will use is the if else statement. So it is basically the next form of the control statement if only, which allows JavaScript to execute statements in more controlled manner, because you are specifying for both the conditions. So the syntax will be similar to the if only. So you will write here if, and then you specify the expression, then you give some statements which will be executed if the condition is true, then you specify the else part, and in the else again you specify the statements which will be executed the condition if the if expression evaluates to false. Now I would also like to remind you one more thing, that in this we use a lot of comparison operators that we had discussed in the previous lecture, where we were discussing about all the arithmetic and logical operators which are present in the JavaScript. So when you are formulating the conditions for the if statement, you will be using all those logical operators. So this is another example of the if else. You can see here the simple condition has been given, whether x is equal to 10. If yes, then a certain statement is executed. If it is not, then else. In the else part we are specifying x is equal to 0. So we are specifying a block of statement for the true condition, or when the condition evaluates to true, and when the condition evaluates to false. So for both these have been specified. So if else basically is a very important control structure, and it is one of the most commonly used control statements in any programming language, including JavaScript. So in this, one only needs to understand the use of the various operators. Like in this case, if I write, instead of x is equal to 10, if I will write x is equal to 10, so that case the equal to, single equal to operator will be an assignment operator. Assignment operator means that the value 10 will be assigned to x. That is, this condition will always evaluate to true, and you will never go to the false part. Even when x's value is not equal to 10, still this condition will keep evaluating to true, because the operator you are using is an incorrect operator. So while you are using comparison, you always have to use a double equal to, when you want to check whether a certain variable is equal to 10 or not. If you want to assign, then you will use a single operator like x is equal to 10. In that case, the value 10 is assigned to the variable x. So the important point is that the correct use of the operators must be understood while formulating the conditions using the if statement. The next important control structure are the loops or the iterative statements. So a loop basically is a very important construct in any programming language, where it is actually a group of statements that are repeated until a certain specified condition is met. So you define, when you want to execute the same statement for a repeated number of times, then of course a finite number of times, then you put those statements as a part of the loop, and you specify the condition when the loop will be terminated or when the loop will come to a stop. So basically the repeat loops are very powerful programming tools, because they allow very efficient programming design, and they are ideally suited for working with arrays also. In the next lectures, we are going to talk about how arrays can be used and what are arrays. So basically loops will be used because the use of loops will reduce the lines of code that you are writing, it will reduce the chances of errors, and it will give you the program, the programmer will have a better control on the execution of the various statements within a program. So loops are very important in all those respects. So the first and a very simple type of loop statement that is used is the while loop. Now the while loop is used to execute a block of code while a certain condition is met. So you specify the condition in the expression part. You can see here the syntax of the while statement has been shown, where you have while and you specify the condition in the expression part, and then in the closing and the opening braces you specify what conditions will be executed if this condition or if this expression evaluates to true. So it's a simple statement, and an example will make it more clearer. You can see here we have initialized a variable like count is equal to 0. You can take any variable here, and then I am just running a loop where I am saying while count is less than equal to 10. So this is the expression, or this is the condition I am putting, that the loop must execute only till the time count becomes equal to 10. As soon as this condition is violated, that is the value of count will be more than 10, then the loop must terminate. So basically I want this loop to execute 11 times from 0 to up to 10. And then I am writing any block of statement which I want to be executed repeatedly. So the statement that I am writing here is document.write, and I am just printing the value of count. So I am just writing the variable count here. So whatever is the present value of count shall be displayed on the browser screen, and then I am incrementing the value of count using the plus plus operator. Plus plus operator is the plus 1 operator that we have discussed. So it actually count plus plus means count is equal to count plus 1. So each time the loop is executed, the value of count will be increased by 1. So initially the value of count is 0, it is compared, so 0 is less than 10, the condition is true, so the control comes inside the loop and the value of count is printed, so 0 is printed. Now count is incremented, so count becomes 0 plus 1, so it becomes 1. it goes back to the while statement. Again it checks count is less than equal to 10, yes, because 1 is less than 10. Again it comes inside the loop and prints the value 1 and count is incremented by 1 again. So now count becomes 2. So similarly this will go on till the time count becomes equal to 11. Now when count becomes equal to 11, it checks 11 is less than equal to 10, the condition is now false, so the control will come out of the loop. So you can see here that numbers from 0 to 10 have been printed in the browser screen. You are seeing that the numbers are printed in one line because no formatting has been done here. If you can use some basic HTML tags to print the number to the next line. So basic idea here is to introduce the concept of the loop here. So the next loop that we do is the do while loop. Now the do while loop is similar to the while loop as we have seen, except that the condition check happens at the beginning of the loop. So before at the end of the loop. In while it happens at the beginning, and in the do while it happens at the end of the loop. So this means that the loop will always be executed at least once. Even if the condition is false, the loop will be executed. So you see here we have written do, then a statement block has been specified, and then the condition has been given in the while statement. So basically here what will happen is that first the expression, the statement will be executed, then the condition will be checked. So in this we can see here that we have written a block of statement like do document.write count. Again the same loop is printed here using the do while. Now the condition is checked while count is less than equal to 10. So in this case even the initial value of count is 11 or 12, anything above 10, then also you will see that at least once the statement will be executed. So the do while loop is used in situations where you want that the statement should be executed at least once. Even if the condition is false, the statement shall be executed. So we will be continuing with the other part of the lecture in a short while. Till then, thank you.
Ma'am, I had a little query. So when we are doing all these loops, so we don't have an infinite loop, and how do we generate infinite numbers if that is required?
Infinite loops can always be written, because if you specify a condition in a manner that, for example, you specify a condition which will never be false,
yes,
or you just forget to specify the counter in the loop. Many a times when students are learning, the novice programmers, they make this mistake, yes, that they specify to forget a termination condition. Yes. So in that case the loop will go on executing infinite times, and then sometimes you have to do control break and stop the program from being executed or growing into an infinite loop. So basically infinite loops is not a desirable program, yes, construct, and programmers would not want that, because it will create bugs in the program. Yes. So infinite loop is something one should be careful about, and you should always specify a terminating condition for your loop.
So in conditions when we are doing mathematical scientific calculations which are to the extent of infinite, even in those conditions we have to specify some limit.
Certain limit. Yes, because infinity cannot be. Yeah, infinity has to be defined as in what is your limit of infinity. Right. That's right.
Thank you, ma'am, for this query. And dear students, this lecture has been so far very interesting. If you have any queries, you can do call in at 1-800-110-430, and we here break for a very short while, so we come back and see you soon. Welcome back, dear viewers. We are here with Dr. Pavitra Bhardwaj talking about JavaScript, and this part of the lecture we are going to talk about the loops and all the semantics of the script. Welcome back, dear ma'am.
So we were talking about the iterative statements which are used commonly in JavaScript, and we had discussed about the two loops, that is the while loop and the do while loop. Now we are going to talk about a very popular loop among the programmers, that is the for loop. Now the for loop is used when there is a need to have a counter of some kind. So the counter is initialized before the loop starts. It is tested after each iteration to see if it is below a target value, and then finally it is updated at the end of the loop. So basically for loop is a very convenient kind of loop, because in this case, unlike the while loop and the do while loop, the three things, that is the condition, the initialization of the counter, the test condition and the iterative statement, they are all written in a single line. So therefore it becomes logically easy to comprehend how this loop will be executing. In case of while and do while, these three steps are written as three specific statements at three different points in the loop construct. So this, therefore, for loop becomes more popular among the programmers because of this ease and this flexibility of combining the three steps into a single statement. So you can see here the initialization, the test condition and the iteration statement, they are being separated by a semicolon, and then we have the statements which are to be executed, which are specified as a block of statements within the opening and the closing curly braces. So we will see a simple for loop example is here. Now this loop will again do the same thing, it will print numbers from 1 to 10. So you can see here we have specified a for loop, and we are using the counter and initializing the counter as 1, I is equal to 1, I is any variable that you are taking as the counter, and then you have specified the condition like I is less than equal to 10. So here the loop is going to run 10 times from 1 to 10, because the initial value of I is 1 and the final value which you want, the target value of I that you want is 10. So you specify it as less than equal to 10, and then the increment operator or the decrement, anyways this can be given, that is given as I plus plus, and then you write the block which is written here. Now since there is a single statement in the for loop which is provided here, therefore the curly braces have been omitted. If it is more than one statement, then you are always supposed to put the statements in a block using the curly braces. So you can see here that the loop executes the same way, like initially the value is 1, so it prints 1, then the value is incremented, so it becomes 2, now the value is 2, which is again checked against the condition. Since the condition is true, so this will go on till the time the value of I becomes 11. Now as soon as the value of I becomes 11, the condition is false, and therefore the program control comes out of the looping statement. So this is a simple way of how you can execute the same statement repeatedly over a number of times within a given range of condition, within a given range of value of the counter that you are giving. So this is another example where we are seeing how a loop can be used to make the program, to reduce the lines of code and to make the program much more efficient. So if you want to print numbers from 1 to 5, so then one way could be that you are writing 5 times the same statement, document.write 1 2 3 4 5, but the 5-6 lines of code is easily replaced by a simple 2-line construct of the loop. So we can see here how a loop is much beneficial for programmers and for writing concise and summarized and crisp programming code. So besides this, when you are talking about loops, there are two common statements that we encounter. One is the break statement and the other is the continue statement. So both these statements are used very commonly while you are using loops and you are using any kind of iterative statements. So the break statement basically is briefly introduced with the switch statement also. It is used to exit a loop early, breaking out of the enclosing curly braces. So when a particular condition is met and a particular step has been executed, a break statement is used to come out of the loop before the actual termination of the loop happens, and the continue statement is simply used to tell the interpreter to immediately start the next iteration of the loop and skip the remaining code of the block. So basically these two statements are only used to control how the program control will move to the next lines of code, or how they will move, how they will come out or terminate the loop after a certain lines of code have been executed. So when a continue statement is encountered, the program flow will move to the loop check expression immediately, and if the condition remains true, then it starts the next iteration. Otherwise, if the condition is false, then it will come out of the loop. So basically these two break and continue statements are used to control how the program control can exit from the looping structure. So now this is a simple JavaScript program which we are seeing here, and we can see here that we are using the simple for line continuation here, that is the arrow has been used here. So when you are typing in 2 lines, then you can use this statement also, and it's a simple program that has been shown to the. So and here we see that within the JavaScript, when you are writing the document.write, or when you want to show anything, when you want to print any text on the browser screen, then you can use all the HTML formatting tags that we have learned so far. So you can incorporate, you can embed all the HTML tags within your JavaScript, just like here in the example it has been shown. So the JavaScript and HTML, basically they will go hand in hand in this case. So all formatting elements, in spite of being JavaScript, you can just carry on with your HTML formatting as you desire. Now we come to a very important element in programming, that is functions. See, when we are talking about any kind of scripting language, we had discussed that modular programming is very important part of all 3rd generation and 4th generation programming languages. Now JavaScript is certainly an object based language, but we are going to use a rich collection of functions in JavaScript. So basically functions are actually collection of statements which perform a specific task. So functions are used whenever it is necessary to repeat an operation. So functions could be inbuilt functions which come along with the JavaScript itself, that is which are already built and you can directly use them, or the user can also define functions for his or her needs. So those are known as user defined functions. So inbuilt functions are like, we have been using all these functions like document.write. So in this case document is the object, and as I told you, write is the function, but this write function is a function of the code itself. So it is not user defined, but it is already there and the user can directly use it. It is a system specified function. But if you want to create your own functions for exercising a particular instruction, or for giving a particular condition, or for specifying a particular task, then you can use functions. So functions are very important because they provide code reusability. Code reusability, we mean that if you want to find out the sum of 2 numbers, or you want to find out if you want to find out the area of a particular geometrical figure or something like that, so you can just define the function once and you can calculate the areas of different figures by specifying different arguments. So we will see what are all these terms, what is the meaning of all these terms, but function is going to be a block of code which you specify, and then you can call that function with different arguments. So whenever you call the function, it will give you the value depending on the arguments that you are specifying to the function. So basically the inputs which are given to a function, they are known as arguments or parameters. So basically it is like a black box which performs an operation, and it is sort of abstracted from the user how it is going to perform that kind of operation. So the most common way to define a function is with the function statement. So function is basically a statement, a reserved word of JavaScript which you use to define a function, and the function statement consists of the function keyword followed by the name of the function. then you have a comma separated list of parameters which you put in parenthesis, and then you have the statements that contain the body of the function, that is what the function is going to do is contained in the curly braces. So the syntax of a function can be seen here. You within the script type you write function, then you write the name of the function, and you give a list of the parameters which the function is going to accept as the input. Parameter is basically the input of the function, and then in the curly braces you specify the statements that you want to be executed once the function has been called. So this is the definition part of the function. This is how you define a function. You use the keyword function, you give the name, and in parenthesis you give the list of the parameters or arguments on which the function is going to work. Now when you are trying to invoke a function, this step is known as calling a function. So calling a function means that you are invoking the function, providing some parameters to it, providing some input to it. So we still need to write simple name of that function and just give the parameters. So calling a function is very simple. You just write the name of the function and you give the parenthesis, or you give the arguments, whichever arguments the function is accepting, you provide those arguments. So it's simply providing that will call the function or will invoke the function from the JavaScript. So here we can see an example. I have declared a function, the name of the function is square, and it is accepting an argument x. X could be a number, and it returns the value of square, x square. So it is doing x into x, so it returns x into x. So here we can see that the name of the function is square, the argument that it is accepting is x, and the output which it is giving is x into x. And in the lower lines you can see that the function has been called or how the function has been invoked. So we have declared a simple variable z is equal to 3, and in another output, in another result variable like square underscore z, we are specifying or we are calling that function using the argument z. So this, in this case, the function will calculate, will take z as the argument, as the parameter. The value of z is 3, so 3 will be passed to the function, the value will be calculated, and the value, say 9 in this case, will be stored in the variable square underscore z. So this is how the function is defined and how it is invoked, by simply specifying the name and the arguments which the function is going to use. So this is another way, these are another examples of a few function declarations which use more than one argument and how the values are returned. So the return statement basically will return the output to the calling program. The program which is calling the function will accept the output in some variable, and that the output is supplied by this function using the return statement. Again, it is to be remembered that always a function is declared, the statement or the block of statements in the function is declared in the curly braces. Now we will talk about a few very unique constructs of the JavaScript program, that is a few specific kinds of boxes or a specific kind of graphical elements which JavaScript allows the user, because ultimately we are talking about web designing, and therefore the web designing JavaScript provides an interactive platform for accepting inputs from the user where HTML is lacking. This is the advantage of JavaScript, that you can accept and you can communicate with the user using different kinds of communication boxes like the alert box or the prompt box or the confirmation box and several other kind of graphical elements which we are going to see. So you can see here the first box that we are seeing is the alert box. The alert is actually a dialog box, and it is commonly used to give a warning message to the user. Like if one input field requires to enter some text, but user does not enter that field, then as a part of the validation you can use alert box to give warning messages. So for validation you give the message in an alert box. So you can see here how this has been specified using the same in the head portion of the page you can specify the script, and in the comments I have simply written alert, and in the parenthesis I have written the message, whatever message you want in the alert box. Basically alert is a method of the window object. We had discussed in the document object model that window is the higher object in the hierarchy and alert is the object of the window method, and therefore window, because it is the default object, so therefore we are not specifying the name of the object here, but alert is also a reserved word and it is it's a system defined function, and you can simply give any message here which will be shown to the user. Then the next box which we see is the confirmation dialog box. Now a confirmation dialog box is mostly used to take users consent on any option. So it displays a dialog with two buttons, OK and cancel. Basically alert box is only to show a warning to the user and it only has OK, whereas confirmation box will give the user an option of providing yes or no. So basically it has two buttons, OK and cancel. So here we can see a script code is written where a variable has been declared which is named as retval, and it gives a confirm message, or it to provide the message in a confirm dialog box. The function that you use is confirm, and you give the question to the user whether you want to continue or not. So depending on the answer of the user, you give an alert message to the user. So if the user chooses true, then the alert is user wants to continue. Otherwise the alert message, a similar alert message that user would not like to continue, is shown here. So basically this is a function which is calculating, which is accepting users input as true and false, and then taking a different kind of course of action, or maybe forking. We can say the program is forking when the user gives true or the user gives false. So alert will only specify a message, it will only display a message, whereas confirmation box can give an option to the user, as in to provide an input in the form of yes or no. The next dialog box which is very commonly used to accept the user's input is the prompt dialog box. So you can see here it is also used, this is also an object of the window object method. So we see here that whenever you want to accept any value from the user, so you declare a variable, and in that variable you call the prompt method and store whatever value the user is entering is stored in that variable. So you can see here a variable retval has been declared, and we are using the prompt method for asking the name of the user. So whatever you are specifying here will be displayed in the prompt dialog box, and then we are adding, or we are showing the name of the user using an alert. So prompt will accept the input from the user, and alert is going to show the result to the user. So if you see the output of this program, you can see here that prompt is actually is showing the user a message that you have to enter your name, and when the user enters the name, the alert box is showing the name that the user has entered. So in case of alert, you can only see the close button is there. In prompt you have both OK and cancel button. So once again we will see that alert is used to show the warning to the user, and prompt is used to accept input from the user, and confirm box or the confirm method of the window is used to show a dialog box which has two options, OK and cancel, to take the user's input as yes or no. Now we come to event handling. Now events basically are a very unique feature of all object oriented languages, and specifically a language or a tool or a scripting tool which has a lot of graphical interaction from the user. So events are, what are events? Basically whenever the user or the browser manipulates a page, an event occurs. That is, whenever there is any interaction of the user with the page, with any element on the page, an event will occur. For example, if a page loads, that is an event. If there is a form on the web page and a user clicks a button on that form, then that is again an event. If you press any key, that could be an event. Closing a window could be an event, or resizing a window could be an event. So any kind of activity which the user performs, or there is any kind of change on the browser window, then that leads to events. And the developers can use these events to execute JavaScript coded responses, like you have a button to close a window, you have messages to be displayed to users and data to be validated. There are certain events, like you must have seen on several websites, when you roll on any image, the image zooms. So basically that is happening when the event on mouse over is occurring. So when the mouse rolls over an image, it has been specified in the event handler function that the image will zoom to a specific size, and when the mouse is brought out of the image, that is on mouse over, then the image will come back to its original size. So this kind of image event handling can happen, and event handling will make the page very, very interesting, because it gives a way of communicating with the user. When the user does something on the screen, the program has a appropriate response for any kind of action that the user is taking. So event handlers and the way events are handled in the forms and the way events are designed in JavaScript makes it a very powerful tool for designing of dynamic and interactive web pages for the users. So we will see the very important, very common and very popular event is an on-click event. Now on-click basically happens when the user clicks the left button of his mouse. So we can put a warning, a validation against this type of event, or if we are defining on-click for a button, then we can define a particular function that when the user clicks the button, then a particular action will take place. A message can be shown to the user, or any kind of action can happen on the screen. For example, if the user clicks the button, the screen, the background color of the web page will change. So that is an event handler which should describe or which should define on the on-click event. So this way you can define a lot of events. So here we can see that a simple JavaScript program has been written, and this program is having both the elements. We are showing how a function has been defined and how the function is called when the on-click event of the button is triggered. So we can see here that in the head portion we have specified a simple function which says hello world. So the name of the function is say hello, and it alerts hello world. Now in the body portion of the HTML page, we can see that we have designed a form, and in the form we have specified a button, and the button, the value or the caption of the button is say hello. So when the user will click on this button at the on click event, we have called the function say hello. So as soon as the user clicks on the button, the function is called and the alert dialog box will be displayed to the user. So this way we can design very, very interactive pages when the user does any kind of activity on the screen. So this is the outputs. So we can see here that the button has been designed and the caption of the button says say hello, and when the user clicks on it, an alert box is shown to the user which says hello. So this is a very simple example, but using a similar kind of structure we can design interesting and more complicated and more complex programming structures also. So we have a very wide range of events which JavaScript provides us, and this is like on load event occurs when a window or the frame is loaded. So when the window is loading, you can define a certain message which can be given to the user, or you can show a certain graphic which is being shown or displayed, a certain image which is being shown. Then we have on none load, on click, on double click event is there, on mouse down, on mouse up, on mouse over. So we have a very, very vast very vast collection of events which are defined, which are inbuilt in JavaScript, and you can use those events to design interactive and very smart, we can say smart web pages, which will keep the user hooked on to your website. So basically in today's lecture we have seen how JavaScript can be used to design robust programs which have got the control structure similar to any other programming languages. Besides this, also we can see that JavaScript provides us unique features like event handlers, and how graphical tools of the form like the buttons or the menus or the radio buttons can be used, how mouse over events can be used to make our pages more robust and to make our pages more interactive. So we shall be continuing in the next lecture on JavaScript only. Till then, thank you.
Dear viewers, I'm sure this has been very informative. I do have one query. So ma'am, can you explain a little bit more about the black box functions?
Black box basically is an example which we generally use for functions and how function abstraction is done. Basically we are using a concept of abstraction in case of JavaScript, because we say that JavaScript is an object based language. So abstraction means that you are giving the functionality of a certain feature to the user without specifying the details. So in this case what we are doing is that the programmer writes the function, but what you are giving to the user is only a small interface. It is like similar to that you are using a LED player, an MP3 player, and you can only operate it using the buttons, but you don't know what is the internal detail.
Right.
So same way we are using this approach, that the details of the implementation of the functions are hidden from the naive user. It is only the code programmer who understands this, and the programmer also doesn't have to every time go and see the code, because it is defined once and then you can use. And then there are so many system defined functions. So like we are using the document.write or the alert. So we don't even go and bother about how these are internally implemented. We just put our arguments and we just get the output. So this kind of
if the user wants to look at these functions, and when we open our any of our web pages into the script, so can we access, as a user can also access the script behind these?
Yes, the user can. You have to change the, yes, there are more, because nowadays antivirus settings are there. So you have to change the settings of the antivirus to run the script and to view the script. Otherwise some browsers may block the script option and they will not allow the user to run the script on the page.
So this lecture was more of a practical aspect, and if one person has a design in mind and all the events that they want to incorporate, they can use all these commands and write the script for it.
That's
so so dear students, this is a very informative lecture series that's going on, and I hope that in the coming lectures you will be further explained about and discussed regarding the JavaScripting, and that can help you write small programs and web pages. So dear students, if you have any queries, you can write into us, and ma'am will be happy to reply to you. So this is the end of this lecture. Bye for now, and we shall meet soon tomorrow morning at 10.